AirPods like a good little sales bro, boom, I do have them here. They just kind of fall out during these types of talks because I get a little animated, a little passionate, if you will. That, and I have like really small ears. See that? Probably not. You can probably barely see them, which my therapist tells me has no correlation to the size of my pipeline. Thank God. And in the spirit of transparency, I took some pre-workout powder just right before this, if you couldn't tell already. And usually I only take it before my Peloton rides because I'm an absolute specimen. But coffee's just not really doing it for me anymore. You know how it goes. But the reason I do bring up the pre-workout is that I am sweating profusely right now, and kind of having heart palps, but also shivering because I'm freezing. So if I die, you guys will know why. Now let's address the elephant in the room. My look. I would like to apologize for it to absolutely no one. As you all know, and assuming you haven't been in a coma or something, the last year and a half has been, well, it's been something special. And while the world has technically reopened, I have found that I quite enjoy my solitude. So right now I probably look like I smell, which is shitty. And yes, I am wearing a Snuggie. Okay. See that? Got it for Hanukkah 2016. And I admit I haven't even washed it, even though it is a little damp because of, the said sweating I mentioned earlier. And I like to think of sweat as the nectar of success. I wouldn't expect you guys to get it. I do want to give a quick shout out to Pete, Kazanji and his team. First of all, for putting on this event, and second, for being dumb enough to bring my homeless looking ass in here. I admit when he first invited me, I thought he was, asking me to speak at a real SKO, the kind that's like just one company where everyone gets weird together and at least one person makes a career limiting decision. Those are the best. Nothing like drinking together in order to weave a more tightly knit company fabric, because that is the only thing that builds company culture. Alcohol, Bottom line though, I had time, he had budget, so I am here. And to be fair, it is a risk bringing me in here, because aside from my aesthetic, I can say whatever I want because I don't have a boss. Honestly, I'm hanging on by a thread. So, I am liable to act up here. But I'm here for about 20 minutes. Now 16 technically. So we will keep on keeping on, and then I will disappear like my commission after California taxes. What am I even going to talk about for 16 minutes though? What do I, a high-performing enterprise sales dude with a Stanford MBA and a Forbes 32 under 32 hottest sales guys of Q1 FY23 honorable mention, have to say to a bunch of revenue leaders? The truth is, not much. Frankly, if you thought you were going to learn anything from this session, well, you are a silly person. And that's just an upfront contract for you folks. Sorry, Julie Greenfield, no hashtag lifelong learning today. I thought instead I would give some perspective on where I come from in the world of sales, how that experience spurred me to create corporate bro content. And I'll end, as I always do, with a little rendition of my new sales rap titled, "Take Me Off Your List, Rolly on the Wrist." Not actually. I can't afford a Rolly. I'll actually end with my point of view on the profession as a whole. An emphasis on profession because your boy is always keeping it profesh. You see, many people think I was conceived in a Silicon Valley laboratory specializing in genetically modified tech sales babies with a predilection to hitting quota. And they'd be right. I was. And eventually I grew to a selling age and left my laboratory to start working at a forward-thinking, world-changing software company on the cutting edge. So I joined Oracle in 2013 with a dream, a shitty pipeline, and a phone with a cord attached to it. That's right. After an underwhelming minor league baseball career, I did what any athlete with zero applicable hard skills would do. I became a BDR in tech sales. I started working in a building that housed several thousand salespeople, Twin Dolphin as it's known as, all 20 to 30-year-old folks. And to put that in perspective, that's like 100 frats and sororities stuffed into an office building. And instead of wearing booty shorts and khakis, we were forced to wear dress pants and khakis, And thank God for working remote, right? Now I can finally put the booty shorts back on and wear them whenever I want. But the experience I had at the Big Red Machine was nothing short of absurd. Some of the ridiculousness I endured included a 500-person or many 500-person power hours, or call blitzes as I knew them. One manager literally duct taped a rep to his chair so he would make more calls. And unfortunately, we forgot to untape him afterwards. He got stuck there the whole weekend, died of starvation. It was so hot that weekend too. It was like gnarly. Actually, no, he didn't die because I'm actually remembering now that he started working at Yelp a few months later. So, no, he did die because if he worked at Yelp, then he went to hell. I'm sorry. That was tasteless. I wanted to test that out. And the truth is, when I test out jokes, I should do it with a live audience because I don't know if it's funny or not, or just kind of hurts people's feelings. Anyway, it wasn't uncommon to hear two reps get in a shouting match over territories or stolen leads, or just because it was after 1 p.m. and everyone was shit-faced. After about 2 days, I would say, into my burgeoning career, I was in the break room with a fellow BDR, just yacked out, cracked out on a concoction of pre-workout and LaCroix, the usual, I called it. And as my eye twitched from 10,000 milligrams of caffeine, I looked around to my fellow BDR, we'll call him Kiefer, and I said, "You know what, Chief Keef? Everybody here is such a corporate bro." And that's when I decided to start making Vine videos for my team. If you remember Vine, back in the day, 6-second videos. I know some of you old bloods do. It was like TikTok without kind of being like a Chinese spying tool. So when managers would go to meetings, I'd take out my phone, grab a few coworkers, and shoot Vines about my life. And the very first video I ever did was about me getting choked out by my headset. As I mentioned earlier, headsets and phones actually had wires back then, which I realize I'm dating myself by saying that. And if I really want to date myself, I'd tell you that this was back when you actually needed a prescription to get Adderall. Young folks, they just don't know how lucky they have it these days. Anyway, you would forget you were wearing your headset. And so, if someone would come up to you, they'd ask if you want to go to lunch or grab coffee, and you stood up too fast, you would wrap those wires around your neck, choking you out. And I guess, there are people out there that are into that kind of asphyxiation thing, 50 Shades of Grey, anyone? Richard Harris's favorite book, by the way. We talk about it a lot in our 2-person book club. And I think he actually has a signed copy. I'm not sure though, but more like 50 dials a day. Am I right, Dickie Harris? I know you're out there. Seriously though, I was really only into it in the sense that cold calling bad leads from marketing 8 hours a day just kind of made me want to throw myself out the building. So yes, I worked in sales for 10 years, in fact. So I kind of know what's going on. And if you're wondering, do I still work in sales? The answer is kinda. I'm a startup advisor. I run an investment group called Corp Capital. And I also do like a lot of sales calls for Bravado, which is a sales community and sales recruiting platform. Shout out to Mark Belgrave, Damien, putting that on your LinkedIn pages. Take note, Jeff. Little foreshadowing, but seriously, I do love you both, and you're the best people in the world. And lastly, of course, how could I forget? I make a lot of content. Hopefully, you've seen, which has some people calling me a marketer. And to me, that's crazy. That we would throw around such offensive terms like marketer. In this day and age, like especially to a decent human being like myself. Nonetheless, like I don't deserve that. I'm not a marketer. I'm not even close. I actually generate quality leads. Okay. What I do is simply hold up a mirror to this crazy world we call tech and sales. I share some of my musings and I get a little thespian with it because I've been there. And while I'm not participating in call blitzes and forecast meetings anymore, I'm still living and breathing sales every day of my life. And honestly, I can't escape it. And I have been trying for years. So I guess I'm just kind of stuck with you sickos. And despite me calling you a bunch of sickos and admitting that I'm trying my best to escape, one of my life missions is to put some respect on the name of sales. It's a hard mission. Okay. There's a lot of SDRs out there making us all look bad with their 36-step sequences, their cookie cutter outreach, and their general disregard for the human on the other side of the pitch. But is that really their fault? I mean, you got people like Grant Cardone telling you to just pick up the phone, man, quit being a little bitch. Then you got the Gary Vee types out there telling you gratitude is the attitude that gets you the latitude. Got it, dude? And let me be clear. I don't claim to be a sales guru, not by any stretch of the imagination. But shit is broken, family. From the outside looking in, sales has an image problem. And from the inside looking out, we have issues with organizational alignment. We have saturated prospecting channels. We have shitty sales cultures with shitty comp plans. And we have all this data that people either choose not to collect or just choose not to use. But let us start with the image problem, okay? Sales is a dirty word. Nobody really grows up wanting to be in sales. A career in sales is considered a resignation. When prospects pick up the phone and hear a salesperson on the other end, their heart drops, their stomach rises, and they get defensive because it literally triggers a fight or flight response. They believe that they might get convinced or tricked into buying something they don't want or need. And they believe that because no one assumes a salesperson has their prospect's best interests in mind. And a lot of time that's true, okay? Because while prospects think that their backs are against the wall, so do salespeople. If they don't close deals, they're going on PIP, performance improvement plans. Pippi Longstockings, as Kiefer used to call them. And if they don't commit enough revenue in their pipeline, their manager's just going to harass them until they either lie or die. And look, you can't even blame the managers, for that, because it's the CEO who's already committed an unattainable number to the board. So if the sales team doesn't hit, then everybody is screwed. And the problem with this, other than the obvious, is that leaders are often looking at this from an org perspective and not at an individual level. In other words, from an investor perspective, the company might look like it's thriving. Revenue's growing. The company is prospering. But on the flippity, what they don't see is the individual reps just bucketing water out of the boat. And yet to the reps, the water just continues to rise. And no matter how many buckets they heave over the side, the cracks start. The company feels like it's winning, and then yet somehow morale on the sales floor is shit. And that's a big problem, fam. Because within the next year and a half year, I don't know, the sales team will be underperforming. And half of them will be out altogether. So, how do we fix this? Well, I'm glad you came to me, because this affluent straight white man has all of the answers. Not. I don't have all the answers. It's a very systemic issue where one solution typically starts another problem. But I do know where we, as leaders who are in sales, or at least, sales adjacent, can start. It's how we empathize with and talk about sales and salespeople. If you have never made a cold call, or never closed a deal, or never been stressing until 11:59 p.m. on New Year's Eve because one signature decides whether or not you are a failure for that entire year, then you don't know. You cannot know. The world of sales is cruel. We do a lot of losing. The best salespeople in the world, they lose more than they win. No one closes 100% of deals. That is the process. It's what makes sales great. It is not easy. It's hard. And people often ask me, they're like, why, Corp? Why, Corp Zeddy? Why do you put yourself through the misery that is sales? That is cold calling. Every salesperson has heard that from someone in their life. And I've thought long and hard about this question. Was it the promise of a six-figure salary? The work hard, play hard mentality? Or just a deep, deep desire to disappoint my family? No, you see, my parents were disappointed way before that. And frankly, it is a miracle I'm still on the family cell plan at 32 years old. Pretty tight, though. It is pretty tight. I'm still on the family cell plan. But I realized I didn't choose sales. The sales life chose me. And my point here is that when you graduate from college with a liberal arts degree and a mountain of debt and absolutely no hard skills, you don't have many career options. You want to live in SF or some big city and afford food? Ain't happening if you're an art history major and you're working at the local gallery. So yes, we salespeople, we might have partied too hard when we should have been studying. Besides Jeff Kershik, who literally put his SAT scores on his LinkedIn page. Need to get that verbal up, buddy, especially if you want to get into Stanford. And yeah, we might still run up the bill a little too much at the company happy hour. And we may be the loudest employees in the office. And we may take sick days on the Mondays after Coachella. But regardless of our social tendencies, sales is the most important skill you can learn in your life, regardless of profession. You see, without sales, Peggy in HR doesn't get to pretend open enrollment is the apocalypse. Without sales, Patrick in sales ops doesn't get the undeserved power to approve discounts. And without sales, ain't no one getting paid. The company doesn't exist. Folks, sales are the essential workers. Those who do not dial for dollars can only wonder how we show up every single day and pound the phones with a smile on our face. And maybe it's a fake smile, but shit, it's a smile. And so we fight on, armed with but a telephone, an email machine, and a dictionary missing the word no. Each and every day, brave salesmen and women such as ourselves reach out to unsuspecting decision makers to hawk our shiny wares. Because salespeople know that hot leads are few and far between. Again, shout out to marketing, bless up, don't work too hard. And like sashimi or gazpacho soup, some calls are just better served cold. I believe it was the poet and recording artist known as Drake who once said, flower doesn't pick itself. And I like to think of us salespeople as flowers. Not beautiful, majestic roses or chrysanthemums. No, fam, we're ugly as shit. We are more like dandelions. A flower that grows in the cracks of sidewalks amongst the desolation and hypodermic needles. We salespeople are goddamn dandelions. We thrive in chaos and we are resilient. Because no matter how rough things get, we are salespeople. And I know, Leslie Vanetz hates like sports metaphors, so I'm going to try to avoid that here. Okay, all right, I think I got a good one. Every day, pandemic or not, in sales is like storming the beaches of Normandy. And that's a D-Day reference, in case you've forgotten Saving Private Ryan, or U.S. history, Tom Hanks, where you at, man? I love you. Wish you were my dad, But yeah, every single day for a salesperson is like D-Day. And salespeople, of course, are the soldiers. If only we all had haircuts like Corey Bray. Sales ops is like the heavy gear salespeople have to carry for some reason. But there's like rare moments, like maybe once a year, where you realize the equipment's like kind of useful. SEs are the reinforcements that are always whining because the battle isn't big enough for them. Sales enablement's like telling you how to shoot and where to aim as if they've ever shot a weapon before. Metaphor people. Okay, we have a problem in the United States. Account managers, customer success, they're the reinforcements that show up after the battle is over. Tell us how we should have fought. Like, sorry for closing deals, nerds. Meanwhile, marketing, oh my God, marketing's at home, making posters, TikToks, blogs, webinars, acting like they're helping win the war, certainly taking credit for it. It's a goddamn nightmare. Okay? Anyway, my point is, there could be a natural disaster or a world war, like I said, or even a little pandemic. But the reality is, you guys, it doesn't matter. Because there are few constants in life. Kershik bragging about his SAT scores, and sales, the oldest, largest profession in the world. So as I wrap up my rant, admittedly, I can be a pretty ranty boy sometimes, I hope that I can at least leave you with a better understanding of where the salesperson is coming from. What the salesperson has to deal with is different than every other employee at any company. It's some real shit. And I hope with this knowledge, you can at least develop a little empathy. And just know that while I may champion sales, I do realize the path to becoming a rocket ship unicorn does not happen without everyone. So the only way to keep going from here is to fight, is to battle. Every single day. Marketing, ops, enablement, maybe even legal if we have to, and sales. All together. So in times like these, where the monotony feels like it's never ending and the uncertainty of the future of work remains, I have to remind you to look around at this gold cast, fam. You are not in this alone. You are the modern sales pros community. And you already know. Sales are dope. Never, ever stop selling. So peace, blessings, and hot leads. Marketing, if you're out there, please do anything, something. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Ross, thank you so much for that. That was wonderful. And I'm sure our community absolutely loved it. For those of you who joined us, thanks for joining for this super fun hour. A little less learning, but maybe there's a lot of inspiring words in there. Hopefully this is our last day. So hopefully you'll join us for our next event. New year, new comp plans, stop losing reps to bad plans. We're going to have some amazing speakers in there from ZoomInfo, Crunchbase, Verisant, and Brazen. If you're not signed up yet, just go to our homepage for this. You can get registered and get your link. I'll drop that in the chat right now. And other than that, we will see you at the next event. But if you're in San Francisco, we are hoping to see you at our in-person happy hour. All that information can be found on our event page. And take care. Bye.